A letter to the people of 2024 from Justice Robert H. Jackson, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. To the citizens of this republic, guardians of justice and liberty, I write to you from the pages of your nation's legal history, where my service on the Supreme Court gave me the solemn duty of protecting the Constitution. Today, as I watch from the echoes of time, I am compelled to speak to you about the deep and intricate challenges you now face. Challenges that echo the dangers I observed in my own lifetime. You stand now at a crossroads, where the mechanisms of democracy and the powers of private institutions, particularly financial institutions, are in delicate balance. In my time, as chief prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials, I witnessed firsthand the consequences of unchecked power. Power that, when concentrated in too few hands, leads to corruption, subjugation, and tyranny. The trials were a stark reminder of what happens when the rule of law is subverted by powerful interests, be they corporate or governmental. In your era, a different kind of power presents itself. The control over your nation's financial future. The creation and management of wealth, once seen as a public function, is now largely controlled by private institutions like the Federal Reserve, whose origins trace back to secretive meetings among bankers with ties to powerful dynasties. These families, like the Morgans and Rothschilds, who were deeply entrenched in the banking systems of the past. Modern History Project. Federal Reserve History. Continue to wield influence over the nation's wealth, just as those who controlled the Bank of the United States did during the 19th century. Business Insider. Federal Reserve History. The influence of these financial powers over your national economy is not a new phenomenon, yet it has grown to a scale that may threaten the balance of justice and equity in your society. I remind you of the fundamental principle that justice is not a commodity to be bought or sold by the wealthiest among us. A nation that allows its economic future to be controlled by a handful of powerful interests is a nation that risks losing the very essence of democracy. I spoke often of the importance of the separation of powers. That principle must extend beyond the formal institutions of government. It must also apply to the economic powers that influence and sometimes corrupt the functions of the state. A society that allows economic elites to concentrate wealth without accountability undermines the foundation of equality and fairness that the Constitution promises to every citizen. The Federal Reserve, like the banks I studied in my time, must be held accountable to the people. Your government, with its debts reaching staggering heights, now owes a great deal to these private institutions. Such debts, unless carefully managed and transparently addressed, threaten to erode not only your economic security, but also the social contract that binds the Republic together. As you move forward, I implore you to uphold the ideals of justice, fairness, and accountability. Ensure that the systems of power, both governmental and financial, are subjected to the rule of law and the scrutiny of a vigilant citizenry. It is your duty, as much as it was mine, to prevent the concentration of power in the hands of the few from overwhelming the rights and liberties of the many. Remember, as I once wrote, it is not the function of the government to keep the citizen from falling into error. It is the function of the citizen to keep the government from falling into error. Let this be your guide in these challenging times. Stand firm in your resolve to maintain a republic that serves the people, not the privileged few. Yours in defense of justice and liberty, Robert H. Jackson, Associate Justice, Supreme Court of the United States.
0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55 and beyond. Growth emerges from silence, from nothingness, zero. A single step of breath, one echo of itself. One from this reflection, duality arises. Tension, creativity, and motion through the spiral of life, expanding. 5, harmony in complexity. 8, an ascent to the unknown. 13, higher truths unfolding. 21, limitless possibility. 34, unseen forces align. 55, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao.